We're super excited to introduce Innovative Orchestrator, the first AI super agent for omnichannel advertising. We're bringing humans and AI agents together so that marketers can conduct a symphony across channels to reach their most valuable customers.
AI is not a matter of if, it's a matter of how and when, and we will help you solve that.
Hey everyone, I'm David Berkowitz and welcome to another edition of AI Insiders with AI Marketers Guild by Marketecture. I feel like we should have a tagline or slogan here, but no, we're not that official. We do have some pretty legit guests though, and today is no exception because we have Tom Ollerton here. And Tom was actually introduced by a previous speaker, Dr. Cecilia Doan. So welcome back, Dr. Doans, and shout out to another past speaker, Catherine Montgomery. Always good to see you, and just seeing like folks who we get to continue to learn from in the audience as well, which is always a great segue because these, if you haven't been before, most of you have, but you know, they're more like community conversations. These aren't webinars. And so Tom's got a few things to present. He's from Automated Creative, doing fantastic work out of London and beyond. And just, as soon as we got to start, bouncing around ideas, I was like, we got to find time to go. And I love those conversations that just start one-on-one. It's like, we got to bring some more people into this room. And so Tom, glad you're in this room.
Mate, this is the most intimidating thing I've done in ages, but I will endeavor not to fall flat on my face completely. But, if I do, I can just close my laptop and we can forget this ever.
Well, at least I won't be the one to intimidate you. It's some of these other folks who are staring at us. So
I look forward to it. Absolutely. And can I just ask, where's everyone from loosely? Can you just pop in can you just do a little heart if I say like North America?
Yeah, I mean, most
do that.
See.
North America, thumbs up. Yeah, okay. Any? Oh, look at that, Eileen, beautiful. Any Europeans?
I saw Israel represented. Let's see. So we do have both coasts here, and the Gulf Coast, or close enough to it.
Anyone from Northumberland here? That's where I'm from, in the northeast. So no Brits. Okay, so I will slow down because
and you need to use more Z's than S's here. So
Z's, oh gosh, that is going to be a push. But thanks, guys. I really appreciate you not doing the rest of the internet and you coming here today. I really appreciate it. So I'm going to give this talk. But basically comes around my belief that creativity will be the only thing left once AI completely destroys all of marketing. So this is what I'm very passionate about and what I want to talk about today. But what I'm going to share is insights from this book I just got published. So I was approached about a year and a half ago to write a book. I was very surprised because I can barely speak, let alone write anything. And it was literally the most painful thing I've ever done. I had to get up between 5 and 7 every morning for a year and a half before my daughter gets up to write this book. But the highlight of the book really was interviewing 40 very senior marketers. So whether that was academics like Ceci, or that's CMOs or startup people or agencies, creative strategists. And I just had calls with them and I said, look, how do you take the smooshy, lovely, creative thing and combine it with the data thing? How do those two completely different things go together? How does that work? Please tell me. And interviewed people like Rory Sutherland and Neil Patel. It's really interesting people for it. Honestly, I wanted to write a book about AI, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But any book that I was published in July this year is going to be pretty much out of date. And I read David's book on AI and marketing, and he does a brilliant job of it at the start, saying, well, you can't really do this. It's going to be out of date. And David did a very elegant job of giving the 30,000 foot view of AI and marketing. But what I did, I thought, look, if I write about data and creativity, it will be relevant to AI. It will be relevant to quantum, whatever, all the rest of the things. So that was the book I wrote, and it's available in bookshops and on the internet. But the wider context is I work for this company. Actually, I'm the founder of this company. It's called Automated Creative. So what we do, and I'm not going to pitch the business to you today, we make and optimize ad creative. So we make all of this stuff. We have our own proprietary tech that makes all of these ads, and we do that using live data that comes back from the Metas and the Googles, the retail media of this world, and combine that with human insight. So we founded this in 2017 when we kind of asked ourselves this question. But like in 2017, we thought, well, what would happen if you combine AI with creative services? And so we ran an event called I'll Be Back that looked at the intersection of creativity, ads, and AI. And my business partner and I, Alex, went, look, at some point, you're going to have AI and agency stuff squished together. So why don't we go and do that? And that was all based on this thing that we got really excited about, which was called generative AI, right? So we've been in that space since 2017 in one way or another. And we try to build a business with this kind of future in mind. So written a book. It's coming up to Christmas. Might make a beautiful present. I don't know. Depends how much you like someone. And we've built this business. So how I feel is we're working into this uncertain AI future, right? There's a lot of people saying that this is definitely going to happen. A lot of people throwing sort of expert phrases around, but I'm really uncertain. I've been doing this for 10 years and I do not know what's going to happen next year. I've got a vague idea, but I saw this quote, and I'm sorry, I am going to read the whole thing here, so I apologize. Let's get this thing out of the way. And you're a business, you come to us, you tell us what your objective is, you connect to your bank account, you don't need any creative, you don't need any targeting demographic, you don't need any measurement, except you're to read the results that we spit out. And I think that's going to be huge. I think it's a redefinition of the category of advertising. Now, this is what Mark Zuckerberg said. So he's basically saying here, creative stuff, it doesn't matter. Just send us a picture of your products and we'll crank out this Gen AI stuff in the background. Just give us your credit card and we'll just spit you out money, basically. And so he is right if marketing is an engineering problem. But for any of the marketing folk in the room will understand it's a human problem of which technology plays a part. So we're in this kind of odd space where, and certainly as a business owner in the creative space, it's literally terrifying that Meta is we're just going to automate that completely. So we'll see if that happens or not. And then also, I heard this amazing phrase the other day. It really stuck with me. He said, ChatGPT is a money pit with a website over the top. It's not making any money. You got to think where the end user is using some kind of AI that's coming down a pipe from ChatGPT. Well, where's that compute power coming from? Where are those chips coming from? There's this, and the economists on this call understand this far better than me. But ChatGPT, they were trying to raise, what was it, the equivalent GDP of France and Germany put together. They were trying to raise the same amount of money as the US spent on World War II. I mean, and this is like the biggest, most successful startup ever. So no one's actually making any money out of this stuff. So what will happen when that shakes down, when the Microsofts want their money back? What will happen? And yeah, they're expecting to lose 44 billion by the end of 2028. It's a crazy time that everyone's betting.
To me, I see that number and I'm like, wait, that's it?
Thanks, David. So, yeah, everyone's betting on this horse that hasn't actually worked out how to make a profit yet. Interesting. And then I'm almost embarrassed to show you this, but you've seen like the ChatGPT user versus the non-ChatGPT user. And I got into the creative industry for this, for the sunshine and rainbows and unicorns that explode in your head at the thought of a great creative idea, or the hair standing up on the back of your neck as you go, that's the thing we're going to do. That's the brilliant, exciting thing. Not like, I'm going to write a really long prompt today. Right. So, and I think, I don't know what everyone else's experience of using AI is, but like now I'm finding myself going to do more hard work, right? Instead of going, I'm just going to crank out this email to David and I'll just let the slot machine take care of it. I'm like, no, I'm going to read every word he said. I'm going to think about everything I want to say and I want to send it to him. So I'll be interested to know later if people are going on a similar journey, because I want this, not this. So how are we going to use data and creativity to build your brand if AI kills us all? So let's do a little bit of a history lesson. I nearly asked you, does anyone recognize this?
Oh,
of course you don't. Of course you do. No, dude.
I share that quote all the time.
It's an absolute banger. So this was 1477, right? So this is the oldest surviving advert in the world.
Wow.
Not the oldest, but the oldest surviving, right? And it's about this book.
Can I beg to differ? I'm so sorry, Tom. You're on a great roll, but
mate,
I was in Pompeii 2 summers ago, and there's still an advertisement for one of the senators. It was like for his campaign, and it's on a street corner. I'm being very pedantic at this point, but
mate, as I don't know if you know, the Meta's ads transparency tool, it lets you toggle between political ads and brand ads. So obviously this is all just brand ad.
Point well taken.
You know, so
keep going, sir.
Thanks for you Death Starred me. Do you know what a Death Starring is? It's when someone has an idea and you find that one little thing that goes down the thing and it explodes.
Yeah, I know. I've been used to doing that my whole life, so
I will remember that till my dying day. Anyway,
I am hoping we have some like Mesopotamian scholar here who can prove us all wrong, though.
Right, so this is the oldest surviving brand ad. Okay, so my oldie English isn't that great, but I'm going to point out some things. So it's this here says good and cheap, so it's a good price, right? And it's a guide for priests called Sarum Pi, and it says kind of go to this place to pick up this book from Samuel Caxton's print works in Houndsditch in London. And the really interesting thing is it says that the book is written like in this font, basically. It doesn't use the word font, but it's like it's basically saying when you read this book, it will be as easy to read as this thing. And then this says, do not remove. Like leave this up, right? So what any of the marketing people in the room will recognize is that you've got good and cheap, you've got a price point, you've got a call to action, which is go to this shop, you've got do not remove this, which is viewability, and then you've got sampling, which is look, the book is written in the same font or printed in the same font as this notice, right? So one of the oldest surviving adverts is doing a lot of the same things that we're still doing today in 2025. So fast forward a little bit. Does anyone know what this is?
Oh, that I know. I don't want to give one away.
Thanks, though. You see, Adam? You see, David? Just let me have the stage. It's good. I appreciate that.
There we go.
This is
the internet ad.
The first ever banner ad, right? And it had a click-through rate of 55%, right? It's still pretty good. And this was for AT&T, and it clicked you through to a website that talked about AT&T were doing something with some galleries. No one really knows. But actually, in a lot of ways, this is a much worse ad than one that was written, several hundred years before. It's like, you are going to do this. It's a kind of rarely used technique these days that you will click here. There's not many call to actions that say, yeah. Anyway, and then moving forward, a bit further forward. Sorry about the slop here. We're getting the point across. So in Amazon's original office, you know better than me where that actually was. They didn't even have desks. They had doors. They had like doors on bins, and they were work up doors. And there was like a coffee machine, and the carpet was kind of all disgusting. It was covered in coffee. And I can't remember the name of the developer. But in his spare time, what he did is he wrote a recommendation algorithm that basically said, if you bought this book, you might also like this book. And when Jeff Bezos heard about this, he saw it in action and came into the room, and he knelt down on his knees. And judging by the age of some of the people in this room, you'll remember Rain's World, the kind of we're not worthy moment. Yeah. So he did a we're not worthy moment to this guy, because basically this algorithm, you like this book, you might also like this book, went on and on and on, and obviously it's developed massively. But it's probably, in terms of revenue, the most successful marketing campaign of all time, right? In terms of cash through the till, it's probably, and obviously it's a grand derivation of the original thing. But this recommendation algorithm was a really creative use of data, right? And that's what this talk is about.
My information is dated, but at one point when they were still primarily books, it accounted, the recommendation engine was close to half of their sales.
Right. Yeah, I've heard. Similar.
40%.
So that's that's creativity and data together. And then, gosh, one of you guys know there's a lad called Jim Stern in the US. He's head of the US Analytics Society or something. Sorry, David, if you're here or that's what you're wrong.
Yeah,
he was in a book. I interviewed him, and he said in 1998, he said to 50 brands, "What's your biggest challenge with digital data?" And can you guess what anyone said? Come on, Adam, you can't be quiet now. I've asked you a question.
Not understanding it, not knowing where it's coming from, or what does it mean.
Okay. Any other guesses?
It's in the hard format, and it's not what we need.
No, what they came back with was there's so much of it. There's so much data in 1998. Like so long ago. I've got too much data. Well, how much do you think I've got now? It's like everyone I interviewed for the book, they're like, how do you balance creating data? And everyone goes, oh, everyone's got so much data. Everyone's got so much data everywhere. So, and one of the things I learned from writing the book is if data doesn't inspire action, it's a distraction, right? So how much of the data that we have got, even before you consider AI, is how much of that data are we scratching our chins going, and how much of it actually is making us do something, right? That data is very abundant. It's everywhere. But how much of it is actually making us do a thing, or have we just got it because we can get it? And the really weird thing for anyone who doesn't work in ad land is we do this really weird thing. Even if there's no data, we pretend that there is. And one of the people I interviewed for the book, I mean, some of you guys will be familiar with Cannes Lions, is the very peak of the advertising accolade tree, the star at the top of the awards Christmas tree. And there was a journalist who was covering the event, and there was a campaign that ran in Latin America that was banking the unbanked through some kind of telephone network. Oh, yeah. I can't quite remember what it was. And so the journalist, she went and spoke to the CMO and said, look, can I interview you about this campaign? It's really interesting. And the CMO said, it never ran. Mm-hmm. This campaign never ran. The agency did it, and then they said, "Can we enter it for awards?" And the CMO was like, "Yeah, sure. Like, knock yourself out. Do it. I'm not paying for it. But, go for it." So even in a world where there is this incredible amount of data, advertising people want to pretend that there is data that doesn't actually exist just so they can win awards. So we have this kind of odd relationship with data. I interviewed Rosie and Faris. Jakob, you probably got some of you guys.
Old friends of mine, yeah.
Yeah.
I work with Rosie, yeah.
So we interviewed those guys for the book, and they opened my mind. And they talked about this idea. When things get really big, all you have is numbers. If you've got a large organization or a country, business, whatever it is, at a certain point, all you can do is talk in numbers, because you can't go around and speak to literally everyone in the organization and all the clients. It all kind of comes down to a spreadsheet. And what that means is stuff gets smoothed and rounded. And I think that is one of the big dangers of AI, is that if we're just dealing in large numbers with the numerical data sets, it's going to round things off when it's the edges that matter. So, interesting case in point. Does anyone know who this is? Any guesses? North Americans? I thought you should have a swipe at this.
He looks like a general.
This is Robert McNamara, who was the CEO of the Ford Motor Company, and he was drafted in to run the military operation in Vietnam. Kind of odd choice. So, one of the errors that Faris and Rosie talked about was the idea when businesses get distracted by one data point, right? They go, well, we're just going to optimize to this thing, and we're not going to think about anything else. And so it's quite gruesome, that. But Robert McNamara is called the McNamara's fallacy. Is that he said we will win the Vietnam War if we increase the number of enemy casualties. If that number keeps on going up, eventually we will win. Right? Just go up. If that goes north, at some point we just have to win. But what he didn't do was understand the politics, was understand the mood of the nation. And there was all of these softer metrics that weren't looked at. And so he just focused on this kind of very gruesome, bloody metric, when actually there was a lot more things that worked into it. And Rosie in the book talks about having a basket of metrics. So how do you have a bunch of different metrics that are all related to each other that work together to help you grow the business or whatever your goal is? Because people are making this mistake that abundant data doesn't equal important data. Anyone in the marketing industry will be able to fully understand that you can get dashboards. You can look at dashboards all day. You could probably look at a different dashboard every hour for 7, 8, 9 hours a day, right? And that's abundant data, but that doesn't mean it's important. And what Faris and Rosie were telling me a lot about was that people make the mistake that if something's hard to get, if data is hard to get hold of, that it's not as important. And some people make the even worse mistake that if you just because you can't get that data, they assume it doesn't exist. So we are very quick in marketing to go, hey, here's this lovely dashboard. Everything looks really shiny. It's abundant data, but is it the most important data? And Ceci's on the call. I'm going to embarrass her really, but she was also in the book and one of the people who inspired me to write in the first place. And she talked about when she was very new to advertising. And what this brand was trying to do was to take print ads and kind of turn them into online ads. And so what they did is they had a focus group, and there was this lady who had not such great eyesight, and she was looking at the ads, and people went, what do you think of these ads? Would you buy this? Blah, 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 blah. And she was having to take her glasses off to read the ads to see what it actually said, because the print was too small. And Ceci was like, well, look, there's no spreadsheet, there is no deck, there is no data point that would have covered that. She had to sit in the room and watch that person have to take her glasses off. So how often as marketers are we just looking at the dashboard and no further, right? So we're training AIs to look at our numbers and crunch them for us. But in this instance, AI wouldn't have been able to do anything because it wouldn't have been able to look at a person examining the text. And I saw a brilliant article the other week about the guy from Meta who's saying that the future of generative AI will all be about video, because you can read a text that say when a glass falls off a table it will smash on the floor, but actually watching that on a video tells you much more about the real world than something in print, which will be a really interesting development of AI. But anyway, so slightly distracted, but data isn't a comprehensive record of the truth. As someone said to me once when I was researching the book, they said data is the shadows of people. Right, but we love data, don't we? It's so clean. It fits in a spreadsheet. We can show the CFO, but it isn't. It's just shadows. It's not. It's something that happened. It isn't what was going on in the mind of the person. So, the next thing that I learned from doing the research for the book, and this is a guy called Goodhart, and this is Goodhart's law. He says when a measure becomes a target, it ceases to become a good measure. All right, so how many of our targets have we given our teams? They say, look, just deliver on that target and everything will be great. But then what everyone starts to do is game that figure to hit the target, right? So a great example of this was in British colonial India. There was a real problem with cobras. They were getting everywhere, causing a problem, killing lots of people. So what the Brits did, what they decided to do was to give a bounty to anyone who brought a cobra skin to them, right? So brilliant. They're bringing. But what happened is the locals, much smarter than the Brits, set up cobra farms and bred cobras to get the bounty. So then the Brits discovered this and then got rid of the bounty deal. And then what happened? Any guesses? The farmers just let all the snakes go back into the wild. And then the population of cobras went through the roof in the area. So what they did, the mistake they make, they say, like, look, all we need is lots of dead cobra, that we need cobra skins. That's the goal. So what they did, they gamed it, produced loads of cobra skins, but essentially it all kind of went back in their face. So a big part of our belief at Automated Creative is that you only get data back on the things that you test, right? So AI will only give you data on the things that you've run. AI will only give you insight to the things that are actually in your data set, but it's not going to tell you what to test outside of that data set. So, concept who this is for, but we worked on a whiskey brand a little while ago. And so our methodology at Automated Creative is to test the hypothesis, right? So what we do is we use AI and automation to generate very many ads to test things like which visual elements and which written elements within the ads are driving the outcomes that the brand want. So we were selling whiskey as a gift. So we tested things like occasions, New Year, holidays, reasons like to say thank you, and people. So mom, dad, brother, sisters. We tested this huge range of visuals, huge range of different messages. And 2 years running, the best performing messaging theme overall was ads that said sorry. So every time there was an ad that said, apologize with a whiskey, make it up to them with a whiskey. Nothing says you mean it like a whiskey. That would, in different markets, would perform really well, right? So had we not tested those things, we wouldn't have got data on those things. So if we're just pointing our AI at the information that we have to get it quicker and cheaper and all the rest of it, actually, unless you're applying your human tangential thought to that, there's every chance that you're going to be optimizing the thing that shouldn't exist. So getting pretty near the end here, but I interviewed a lady called Barbara Galiza, who is a performance marketer out of Amsterdam, and told me a story I'll never forget. It was incredible. So she was working for a dating app where women could meet other women, and her cost per acquisition of new users started getting really expensive. So what the classic, the data only person would just be going, right, well, what's the best performing ad? Let's put all the money behind that. But she decided to have conversations. So she spoke to a large group of existing customers and said, why do you use this dating app? Or why do you use this app? And the message that came back really surprised her. And the respondent said, we use this app to make friends. This is a dating app. Why would you use a dating app to make friends? And so she said, interesting. How do you choose someone to be friends with on this app? And the respondent said, we do it by looking at people. So you make friends by looking at people. And so she realized that actually, because this is what 10, 15 years ago, that really what was going on is that the users of this app had a stigma about the app, about online dating, about meeting people online. So what Barbara decided to do was to change all of their messaging, all of their positioning, to make this app about making friends. So when people landed on the website, on the opening screen of the app, it was all about community and meeting people. And when she looked at the usage data, no one used any of that stuff. They used all the dating stuff. So what she did, she had a conversation before she expected better conversions. So yes, AI is very powerful. Yes, it can give us lots of abundant data very quickly. But what it can't do is look beyond and go and have real conversations with real people. So finally, and this is a really, really hard story to tell because it's really not suitable for work. So I'm gonna try and do this in a vaguely polite way. Right. So at the end of the 70s and the early 80s, there was a serial killer called the Yorkshire Ripper in the UK. And Rory Sutherland told me this story. Now, the way that they caught him has a really interesting lesson for marketing people in an AI world. So serial killer was killing sex workers, right? And so at the time, the way it used to work is you would meet a sex worker in a car, and you would drive the car somewhere quiet, and you would point the car at the wall. And the reason you point the car at the wall is so that the seats that the people were sat on would obscure the relationship that was happening. I think that's suitable for work. I think that's okay. I'm doing okay here.
Great.
So what happened is the two policemen saw a car, and they noticed that the registration plate didn't quite match the type of car that it was. So they went up to knock on the window, and they saw a relationship happening, which is illegal. So they arrested the guy, and the guy said, I need to use the bathroom. Can I just go over and use the bathroom in that bush? And the police said, yes, of course you can. So they took him back to the station. They were processing him. And then one policeman said to the other policeman, they said, did you notice something unusual about the car? And one of them said, no, what was that? He said, the car wasn't pointed towards the wall. The car was pointed the other way around. So can anyone think why the car was pointed the other way around?
You wanted to see.
Anyway, I like that. Thank you. No, it was so they could get away quickly, right? No. So they went back to the where they picked the guy up, and then went to the bush where he'd gone to the toilet, and they found like murder weapons, right? And that was what convicted the Yorkshire Ripper. Now, what Rory Sutherland talks about is investigative data versus evidential data. So the car being faced the wrong way, you can't put someone in prison for 37 years to life for that, because it has investigative value. It's like, how can you go further? What else is there? The evidential data was the weapons in the bush, right? So to his point, like, if we don't allow these exploratory procedures, we're only exploring a tiny part of the possible solution space. So AI is quick, it's cheap, it's powerful, it can do all these things, we can replace all of these people. But is it just giving us some kind of scant evidential value when really we need to go and look further? So it's my belief that AI is very powerful, but it isn't quite as powerful as being curious and going the extra mile yourself. So some practical takeaways. So it's balancing quant with qual. Numbers will tell you what happened, but people reveal why. Don't just stop at the LLM. Just because the answer was quick and abundant doesn't mean it's right. What did someone say? Excuse my language, but some ad guy said, "Shit that arrives at the speed of sound is still shit." So sometimes you need to go further. Excuse my language. And measure what matters. What are you actually going to act on? There's big numbers, but hide the real insight. So don't look at what the data is telling you. Look at what it's hiding from you. What is AI hiding from you by smoothing the edges? And data should be fuel, not a cage. And embrace those anomalies and those odd signals that spark creativity. Don't let AI flatten out the weirdness where the great ideas live. I host a little mini community of people who've seen this presentation and read the book. So if you'd like to join that, you can do. But that is me. So I am now expecting to get torn apart by Adam and the rest.
Tom, I'm going to start, and then I'll let the wolves have you. And I'm going to bring up two of my favorite topics: rabbis and serial killers. I promise not one and the same, because I think there's a parallel here. So I was at this lunch roundtable with a rabbi where someone asked him about God's omniscience. You all right there?
So what does omniscience mean? Sorry.
So knows everything, right?
Right.
So if humans have free will, how can then how do you reconcile that with God who is the future, and God who knows the future? And this, I promise I'm getting somewhere about AI in a second. We don't have to go too deep down the theological hole here. But his response was, God basically has all the data of what happened. And so God has much better luck at being able to predict what's going to happen, because God sees everything going on all over the world and everything and knows everything that has happened up until this point. So something that sounds like a prophecy is actually just a very educated prediction. Going from there, what I wonder is if you're potentially giving AI the short shrift here, because if AI, for instance, if you're using AI to crack a case of other serial killers, topic that comes up a lot with a name like mine, then presumably AI knows that example, and it knows the examples of any published police precinct all around the world in places that you and I have never even heard of. And so it's got all of this. The same thing with these ad campaigns. Then if it knows that this one thing happened here, or like it can make inferences and some of these things that might be unexpected to us. But if it has all of the data and can tease out what are the most relevant parts, then at some point, like, won't it feel like AI is actually seeing around corners? Like how do we not get there? And that we then, like, there's still some room for creativity, but it's almost like we're kind of more and more marginalized on that sense.
So sticking with your long theological point at the start, if the rabbi is correct, God has a complete data set. Mm-hmm. He has an unbiased, unfiltered, 360, left, right, and center, unfiltered data set, right? Whereas AI doesn't. And this comes back to my point before about AI is the shadows of people, right? So, for example, purely in a A/B test between two ads, there's a red one and a blue one, right? And so there's a data set that the red did better than the blue, right? Mm-hmm. But unless you know that within that ad, there's a attractive person going, hey, it's 50% off, then it's an incomplete data set, right? And that's even at an ad level, right? So if you then look at the context within which that ad is being seen, no one has that data point. right? So imagine you're flicking through Facebook or Instagram, whatever, and you're seeing lots of yellow things, and then a red ad pops out, right? You go, it's the red ad that worked. No, it was the ad that wasn't yellow. But God has a complete data set. Marketers have a woefully inefficient.
But what I'm wondering is, as soon as there's some case study in Paraguay that someone didn't respond to the ads because she couldn't see them, and that there's some other case study that comes up from some agency that publishes this as an award submission for Mozambique that no one in this room would have been likely to see, but AI is able to hoover up more and more of that data, then doesn't it become more able to make enough of those inferences, even if it's always going to potentially miss something?
For two different markets, for two different brands, two different times of year, two different objectives, different audiences, different platforms, different everything. No, it can't make that correlation. Okay. The only thing that was saying was that they were ads, and that's not a strong connection.
Well, all right. Well, look, I know. I want to push.
David, you brought God into it. I'm gonna have to come back strongly.
Oh no, this is great. Well, this is also, I wanted your point of view here, and so.
Actually, in because as a behavioral scientist, the majority middle is boring and plain vanilla, and all the grist for your good ideas and handwriting on the wall of why something is bad is in the outer limits of the data set. It's in the outliers where you get your real insights, not in the Joe average middle.
And well, exactly, Aileen. And that's also why the one other thing I'm sorry, I did want to steal you for one more second, Tom, that I wanted to ask your opinion on. I'm sure you have them. Is synthetic audiences, and have you looked into this? And
yeah, we have synthetic audiences as part of the way that we work. Now, what I'm most down on AI for is when people go, it's great because it's quicker and cheaper, right? So that story, I'll come back to your question at the start. So I was in Amsterdam. I was meeting a very successful person in the creative field at a famous fashion brand you'll all know. And that individual sat down across from me and got their laptop out. And there was like 10 images of models wearing clothes. I don't know anything about fashion, so whatever. They look like clothes to me. I'm sure they were very cool. And he went, right, so that would have been 10 shoots, 10 crews, 10 lots of flights, blah, 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 edit, blah, blah, model rights. And that used to cost me 700 grand euros. But now, because of AI and having synthetic people, the clothes weren't synthetic, they were real clothes. It cost 35 grand. And he was going, yes, 750 grand. Now it's only cost 35 grand. Woo, woo, woo. I said, look, all you've done is you've leveled the playing field because all your competitors will do exactly the same thing. Everyone will go from 700 grand to 35 grand. And then the Tom and David fashion company, who only had 35 grand, now is at a level creative playing field with the biggest people in the game, right? It's like someone getting on the Eurostar for the first time from the UK to Paris and getting off the train going, yes, I got a train, and forgetting that there's 1,000 other people on that train, right? So that is the mistake that people are making with AI. They're going, I can now do the thing I was already doing quicker and cheaper. But guess what, guys? For $50, so can everyone else. Everyone else is doing it. It's not just you. We're all on LinkedIn. So to your point about synthetic audiences, brilliant. What a great, quick, cheap way to do a slightly worse job of the thing you're going to do anyway, right? So yeah, we have them and it's great. So if you want to get a feel for what mums in rural Manchester might feel about a nappy very quickly, yes, you can use a synthetic audience. But to my story before about Ceci, looking at a human being and seeing the glasses come off, it wouldn't capture that. Because what we want to do, someone I saw on LinkedIn the other day made me laugh. They said, advertising loves pressing the easy button. If there's an easy button, we'll all look at who's got the easy button. Let's press it, right? But the joy, the goodness, the empathy comes from effort and listening to people. What are as I said before, what is the data hiding from you as well as telling you?
Well, I'm asking too many questions, so I'm going to stop, but I'm loving this. Who else wants to ask Tom something directly? There's an amazing chat going on, Tom. I'll have to send you after.
Oh, really? Okay.
Follow. Yeah. Adam, go for it.
Yeah. So Tom, this is awesome. Thank you for putting up with my interjections. Thank you for taking us through all of this. About 10 years ago, tried to start up this company, very early stages, but the general thesis was if you have these ads, you could deconstruct, the creative into 2000 plus, a taxonomy of 2000 plus attributes that really matter. And then you could predict. And instead of DCO, you'd use these many attributes and you'd have all these massive permutations. And it strikes me that now, AI can do that at much grander scale. Or to what extent do you currently use, or do you believe in a future where you are going to be able to have a reliable taxonomy of what's working in an ad, or a reliable taxonomy of attributes, and then kind of derive it from there? So the example we were given was if you have 3 or more people in a travel ad, it implies family, family creative, it performs better for leisure travel campaigns, and like people sometimes would have 4 or a family or focus. It's like, no, you just need 3 or more people. And that distinction, if you run some correlation with outcomes on a campaign, is something you could back into if you've done enough with the ML feedback loop, enough attributes to pattern match against the outcomes. Is this something that ultimately doesn't need a predefined taxonomy, and you guys believe that AI will make this possible? I guess it's sort of a near infinite number of permutations to predict outcomes of performance-based messaging of any kind.
Wow, what an excellent practitioner question. Thank you. So there's a couple of routes to that. I'll probably forget what one of them is. But so, visual recognition has been around for a long time. Things like Amazon's recognition and Google's, and they've all been very, very readily available through an API. And so we've got like a reams of this data, like we've been going since 2017. So yes, and there's a lot of suppliers in the space that use that stuff, right? So there's an argument that you just let the AI do it, right? So an AI would probably recognize a pair of Air Jordans or a beach or the color red, things, right? They would recognize things, does the CMO of Mars really want to know whether dogs work in his or her ads? Right. Well, unless dogs are central to their strategy, which they may well be.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So AI will get better and better and better and better and better at that stuff. But I'll tell you a story about when I used to work in agency side, an agency called We Are Social. I wasn't in those conversations, but they were talking. I had a conversation with one brand, I think it was Cadbury, and they were having months and months and months of discussions about what the word joy meant. Like, how do you describe joy? Like, we all know what joy means. We feel joy, but then when you try and button it down, you go, well, joy is. It's just I can see Eileen. She's going, well, it's quite tricky, right? So the idea that an AI can understand something as subjective as joy, when is the humans who are going to train that AI can't even agree themselves. Mm-hmm. So our approach at the moment, and this may change based on what happens with the technology, is we go to the brand. What is it you want to know about this audience that you've never been able to find out? And what is the brand trying to go from here to here, sales, awareness, whatever it is. And then what we do is we create what we call strategic tags that are relevant to that brand strategy. And then we can tag up ads based on those strategic tags. So then when we report back to our client through our LLM, the brand's able to go, right, is it rational or emotional in terms of messaging that works really well? But rational emotional means something to this brand, but means nothing to that brand, right? They're cats and dogs. These guys are rational and emotional. So there is definitely a future where AI could do all of this stuff, and none of us will have jobs, and we'll be working in the community.
None. But even in the case of Joy or the dogs and M&M Mars, like it could assemble a very manageable universe of insights, conclusions, and then the CMO could quickly look through the 10 or 20 insights and say, oh, well, those few I'll take out right away because we don't need dogs in an M&M ad.
I would love to see a CMO that was going to go through a list of tangential insights. Yeah. Okay. Good luck with that. So it's like at this point in time, it's the human plus the machine to do something that we couldn't do before AI. Right. To my point about the fashion brand. Cool. You can save $700,000, but what can you do with AI now that you couldn't do before? Right. And that is what marketers are not getting at this point in time. They're going, I'm going to save time and money and keep the CFO happy while the cost of living crisis crushes everyone. But you can't cut your way to growth. And you're not going to cut your way to growth just using AI. Why I got into this business in 2017 was like, what is possible creatively with AI? It was inconceivable. And that's why I get out of bed in the morning. That's why I show up to these kind of things. It's because I love meeting people who have the same vision and belief as them.
Yeah, I mean, I am curious though, also like beyond major brands, for the, do you have a chip shop on the corner? Do you have one of those? For the,
I'm in London. Yeah.
Okay.
Stuff, yeah. Cool.
So for your local chip shop, right? Then if they just want to spend $1 on an ad and get someone to come in and buy $2 worth of chips, then does Zuckerberg's thesis win there or not really?
Yeah, absolutely. So me and Adam, we're going to set up the Adam and Tom Burger Company, right? Because we love burgers, veggie burgers, meat burgers, whatever it is, right? So all we want to do is sit in front of a hot grill and mix up different types of meat and make burgers. What's the right kind of mayo? A burger. We love it, right? The last thing we want to do is marketing. Oh my Lord. We don't want to look at an agency, write a brief. We're artisans, right? So most of Facebook's money comes from the long tail, from the chip shops, not from the blue chips, right? They obviously spend the most per client, but actually all the long tail. So I think there's an amazing use for AI currently is for helping people do marketing that don't want to do marketing, right? I'm not a finance and ops guy, right? So any technology that helps that happen automatically, so I can focus on the things that I do, which is talking to people, meeting people, learning, communicating, or trying to. So there's all things that we don't want to do. And so for smaller long-term chip shops, mom and pop shops, I think you guys call them in North America, yeah, brilliant, right? Instead of them not making burgers or following the thing that they love, they could just press the advertising button and all these ads appear, and they got, whether they're any good or not, probably doesn't matter because they just want to spend time doing the thing that they love. So absolutely, Gen AI for SMEs, that's a fantastic solution. But for the McDonald's, the Bose, the Mars, the Jack Daniels, the Formula One, the Reckitt's, the P&G's that we represent, I don't see it at this point to be entirely dependent on those formats.
Love it. Who else has got something for Tom?
I guess I'm curious. And first of all, thank you, Tom, for the innumerate insights, as always. I'm curious about a few of the things mentioned in this conversation. So we see a tension with understanding that the most interesting things, the wonderful things, the unicorns and puppy dogs and rainbows never happens at the mean. It always happens at the edges. And so finding those unique points of information that we don't get when we average to the mean, that's what's exciting for us creatives. However, for those of us who've been in town for a bit of a while and we're familiar with Joel Rubinson with the movable middles, for those of us marketers who want to sell more stuff, we got to move the middle. And so I'm curious about that tension and your thoughts on how do we navigate that kind of push and pull? We need to do scale, but we also want to find the diamonds in the rough.
So I say this a lot, and no one ever listens to me, but maybe this is going to be the time.
We're listening.
Right? This may well be. No, sorry. People are very polite and they smile and nod. So, right, the reason that the human species has evolved to the level it has is because we can spot a pattern, right? So, this dangerous thing happens over there. Let's not go. People who die go over to the dangerous bit. We'll go over here. We're great. We've evolved quicker than blah, blah, blah. Also, not an anthropologist, so laugh at me as much as you like. But loosely, in knuckle dragging salesman of a way, that's what I understand, right? We spot patterns, right? However, that's the worst thing we could do as a marketer. That's the absolute worst thing we could do. So back to mine and Adam's burger restaurant, this is definitely going to happen. What we could do is we could spot the pattern. We go, okay, Adam, you go and find 100 burger ads. I'll go and find 100, and then we'll find the commonalities, and then we'll have like the ultimate burger ad. It'll be right there. Or we'll go to the digital intern, ChatGPT, or the wrapper of Reddit, it's also called, and we go, what makes a great burger ad? So what does ChatGPT do? It goes, well, what are the most successful burger ads? Let's pull in all of those attributes together and squish them all together. And we go, and we're jumping up and down our burger shop. We've got the best ad ever possible because it's the average, the mean, the middle of everything, right? But what's going to happen? No one's going to notice it because it looks like every other burger ad. So as humans, we've evolved because we spot patterns. The most powerful marketers in a world where any ad can be made by AI will be the ones that are able to make the thing that's different. So great example of this recently is the water category, right? It's all about mountains and volcanoes and purity. Liquid Death comes in a bloody can and looks like an energy drink, right? They did what the guys at Liquid Death didn't do is go, oh, well, let's get a really fancy agency to find the median, like what's best practice. It's one of the things we hate in our business is this idea of best practice. In my school, best practice was called copying, right? So what brands go, hey, let's quick, let's do best practice, right? So they squish all these people together and they go, right, we're doing best practice. No, you're just doing the same as everyone else in the category, right? So your cost per acquisition is going to go through the flipping roof because you wallpaper, you fit in. So, Cecily, to answer your question, I think is to go like if you want to avoid that middle and go to the edges, you have to learn to be a non-human and stand out. How do you stand out and not fit in? And we were working on a infant formula product years ago. It was aimed at mums on Facebook, and we found out that the best thing you can put in an ad targeted at a mum on Facebook is a dad. Mm-hmm. We tested a whole bunch of different things. Best practice says, but what's best practice for an infant formula ad? Have a mum and a baby. You're so beautiful. No, have a dad, because guess what? It stands out. It cuts through. It's different. So to my point before, Cecily, it's like you only get data back on the things that you test. So if you want to get to the good stuff, the unicorns, as you said, and the rainbows on the edge, you've got to think about this stuff. You've got to think in a way that the machine can't, so you can test them and then learn. Anyway, you've got me all excited now.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Tom, I think you got a lot of us very excited. Can you, speaking of which, share the WhatsApp code again, or put the link in the chat? I'll send it around to you. Okay, great. Because we'll make sure, and I know there's some folks eager to join, and if they haven't read the book yet, then I'm sure there'll be I'm along the way.
I'm going to expect an email from Amazon saying that they're closing down some servers because of the orders for the book, and I go,
well, this is the crew to make it happen. So
and Adam, don't actually make that ad, because what you're going to have is the dog's breakfast, not a burger shop.
Details.
Well, and Tom, I'll make sure to send you the chat. It's been lively, so thanks everyone for contributing behind the scenes as well. It's been a lot of fun for me. Tom, hope you come back and join us sometime. So appreciate you.
Yes, I will. Thank you so much for the questions and the opportunities. And thanks for the introduction, guys. Have a wonderful rest of the day and a beautiful end of the year.
Thank you so much, Tom. This is awesome.
Wonderful holidays, and see everyone next week. But this has been terrific. Thanks again.
See you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, CC.